Welcome to another day in the Matrix, waters above crypto. Just dropping by to give all you beautiful people a market update before the weekend. And tonight I'll be doing a live stream around 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Looking forward to hanging out with the Wolf Pack. We're almost at 12,000 subscribers, so let's make that happen today. And we're aiming for 13,000 before the end of the month. Let's do this. So if you're new here, we do cryptocurrency technical analysis and combine it with Gematria, Numerology, and Astrology to understand these markets. Feel free to subscribe, turn on the bell notification to stay updated on when new videos come out, and make sure to give this video a like and share this channel with other conscious people to help grow this community. And for those of you that want to learn how to do technical analysis and combine it with Gematria, you can join my Mastermind course. My email is in the description box to get in contact with me for access to the course. And with that being said, let's take the red pill. So, a couple things I had in mind actually before we got going was a couple dates and something to kind of reference from the last video I uploaded talking about last year around this time, June, July into August 2020. And, just very basic stuff, the 7/20 date, which is coming up soon, July 20th in 4 days. With the rules of numerology removing the 0, you get the 72, and that 72 comes back to Bitcoin with the 72. And then another thing I was also thinking about was how the date of 7/24, which is July 24th, you have the 7 plus 24 plus 20 plus 21, and you're getting that 72 as well, like Bitcoin equals 72 in the English ordinal cipher using Gematria. So this is sort of interesting because if we look at how July went in 2020, which will be the focus of this video, you'll see that basically right after the transition of the lunar cycle, which in this scenario, we have the full moon on the 23rd of July, which is coming up very soon. The 24th would be the day after. It seems like this July 20th through the July 24th date could be a pivot time, sort of like a time to just chill out, go sideways before we continue to the upside. Now, I'm bullish biased at this time unless I see a break of structure, and we'll break that down in today's video. One of the things that I kind of want to clear the energy on is everyone who's either extremely bearish or extremely bullish right now. And we all need to remember that, this market has a way of destroying sentiment and really, really destroying confidence. And when the confidence is high, it's typically the worst time to be buying. When the confidence is low or almost completely gone from the market and the volume seems to disappear, that's a very good time to accumulate. Now, I'm not telling you what to do with your hard-earned money, but what I have been saying since the drop in May is that expect boring sideways for quite a while, and this would be considered a reaccumulation phase using Wyckoff method. Again, my first videos ever on YouTube and in my course starting back in September, you can see that we were using Wyckoff method here. It became quite popular as of recently, and that's great. That means the awareness is getting out there. It's an incredible way to look at the market. It's a very simple way of doing TA, believe it or not, because it focuses on horizontal trading ranges, and the average person who's new to this market, they typically skip over the most basic concept of TA, which is learning market structure. Without market structure, you're not really able to develop a compass of how to navigate the market, and that's why the average new person in this market struggles on where to make entries, when to sell, when is a good time to be buying, and when is a good time to be selling. And these they seem to be complex ideas, but we could actually it's mostly oversimplified. So I don't want to rant and rave too much, but I do want to start out with this idea of just clearing the air of where I stand right now, which is a bullish bias, even though it's bloody and the fear and greed index has been an extreme fear for so many days now. Basically all of last month was in fear, and we're seeing as the days go by, the fear keeps dropping, and once it starts getting below 20, that's essentially when the Google trends for crypto or Bitcoin hits rock bottom. That's when YouTube views start hitting rock bottom in crypto, and basically that's when the market sort of bottoms also. It's when the retail investor gets scared out of position. Now there's two ways to do that. You could either do that with price action, or you could do that with a lack of price action, aka boredom. When it's boring is when I'm excited. It's very basic. You buy when there's blood in the streets, or you buy when everyone's bored and has forgotten about the asset. Now that everyone's forgotten about it, you're seeing the prices are on a discount, and if you're really here to make generational wealth, you would never want to be accumulating at a time when it's exciting and in extreme greed. And that's exactly what retail waits for. They FOMO in when everyone else is excited and when the emotion behind the sector is all about making money. And that's what's interesting about investing is it's sold onto humanity as this idea of always making money, but nobody understands that there's a phase here. There's a phase of accumulation and then there's a phase of distribution. Now, we just seen a distributionary cycle come into play, and I believe we've re-entered reaccumulation, and that is why all my videos focus on that energy. I am not bearish at all. Now that we've cleared that up, a couple things I wanted to look at was last year around this time frame, and you could see that we had this annual solar eclipse on June 21st, 2020, got a little bit of a downtrend, and then basically into the month of August, we see a nice jump to the upside. Let me go to the daily candles actually to get a little bit of a more drawn out picture. So you can see what's going on here, right? And what we get right there on the 21st of July, which remember today is July 16th, and I want to show you how here July 16th was the lowest day we got with a wick, basically bought up, and then we went sideways for a matter of maybe 4 to 5 trading days, and then see on the 21st of July we start to get a reversal and a massive breakout, something that at the time when there was almost no volatility in the market, this got really exciting. And it's funny, I actually released my course around here when we were into this what I called a reaccumulation after decline. So you have a distributional top, it looks like a Bart Simpson head, and then you have this kind of sideways moving to the upside trend, and then you see continuation breakout to the upside following that. It's really, really textbook to be considering accumulations before and after distributional tops. What happens is retail typically waits till you get to the top side of the distributional top. That is why they fail, because they buy into what I typically call the bull trap. Or if you pull Fibonacci, you'll see that this area is the 618 to 786 Fibonacci. I go over this in my course quite a bit. So what I'm looking for actually is how you see how there was this boring structure throughout this time. Let me turn on the moon phases indicator. I know I talked about it in the last video, but you could see right here that after this new moon in June, and last year, everything was flipped. So the new moons were near the end of the month and the full moons were near the beginning of the month. So it's flipped this year. Typically, a lot of our new moons are near the beginning of the month and our full moons are near the end of the month. It's totally normal. So what we're getting here is basically you see that at the start of this new moon, we have a massive bullish breakout until literally the day before the full moon in August. Now, what this is telling me is this doesn't have to end the rally necessarily, because you see how this new moon right here was actually like maybe 2 days, 3 trading days before we did hit the absolute top. So if you go from around the open the day before to top, you're looking at about a 34% increase from top of wick, which would have been impossible to determine. You get that 36%. Why is that 36 important? Bitcoin equals 36 in the full reduction cipher using Gematria. Now, why this is so interesting that this happened is because this breakout starts on 720. Of course, 720 with the zero removed is 72. So you get on the 7/2 date numerology a breakout of 36%. Yeah. And that's why we focus on Gematria here, because we've learned that that code is what runs the market. It could go from everything from the day of the week to the price it hits to the actual price percentage move it hits. And I hope by now I've kind of like taught you guys that. So anyways, I do suspect that we could actually be reliving this fractal. I don't necessarily want to say that we will 100% relive this fractal, but just bear with me on the concept here. Essentially, we could see from new moon, new moon, new moon, and these 2 full moons, it was flat. Basically, no price action. And if you actually study the amount of price fluctuation between this new moon, this full moon, and when it started the breakout, it was about $500 of movement. So today alone on Bitcoin, we've seen more than a $500 daily movement. We've seen $10,000 movements in Bitcoin. So what's happened lately is there's a lot more liquidity in the sector, and there's a lot more wallets, there's a lot more interest. So even though I was telling you earlier, like the interest has left, what I was discussing was for retail. But the OTC market, if you start looking up grayscale data, you'll actually see that the whales or the long-time wallet holders have actually increased their positions. They're buying up all this $30,000, $29,000, $32,000 Bitcoin. They're gobbling it all up. Now, what's interesting too is in 2 days we have that grayscale unlock, and that grayscale unlock might actually cause some turbulence. But it's interesting how it's set up. If you look at it right there, around this time, it just led to an insane breakout if we were to consider days. And I know that this grayscale unlock was done using numerology, astrology, Gematria, because that's how these companies at the highest levels work. These are the whales of the market. These people have a lot of Bitcoin, a lot of it. It's insane how much they have if you look at it in terms of dollars. So could we be reliving this sort of move where we had invalidated new moon and full moon price action where it was just boring, kind of just chopping along before a massive breakout into this transition of the end of July? It's very possible, and I would like to believe so because we've seen a couple things that have happened for Bitcoin and for XRP. Again, I'm always using XRP as an indicator here. So for those of you that are kind of just sticking, new to the channel, or for those of you that have been around for a while, you always hear me saying this idea that I'm more looking into XRP as an indicator, and that's why I go over it in every single video, because I've noticed that there's some sort of a way that you could sort of see into the future with XRP, and it's because of the price action. It blows my mind. But let's just take a look at today, right? We have a day that's essentially flat across the board for Bitcoin XRP. I just saw Ethereum sort of wake up, but for the most part, almost all of today, since the New York Stock Exchange has opened, Bitcoin and XRP were flat and green, while all these altcoins were just getting shit on. So it's really interesting how we're sort of in the setup for a big move to come. And I do believe it will be bullish, and I do not think it will stay bullish. I think it will just come in reverse right back in to the Shemitah. So you've heard me say this many times, but I just want to reiterate that before we continue on this video. Another thing too is the dollar index is it's choppy. Let me turn off this moon cycle indicator because it's not really that relevant here. But if we look, we have this trend line I've been bringing up in every single video, and we are having an issue with breaking through this trend line on the daily at least. But I gotta be honest, guys, on the weekly, this is looking very bullish. If we close today anywhere in these levels of 92.5, I do suspect continuation for the dollar index moving into next week. And there has been times where the dollar index has had a rally or been at higher levels, and Bitcoin actually still went up, because this isn't 100% correlated. It is just, for the most part, a solid indicator to get a reason why things are happening on certain days. For instance, this week where we just saw massive green for the DXY, it was a shit week for crypto. So it just is what it is. But the stock market and everything else is looking flat. I don't see a reason to be calling for any bear market or anything insane like that. If anything, bulls should want sideways and boring for at least a couple more months. A little price rallies to the upside are great. Pullbacks are also great for accumulation, but for the most part, we should want boring and sideways for a while, drain out as many weak hands as possible before we move up to the end of the year. So before we move into XRP, go ahead and give this video a like if you haven't already. Go ahead and subscribe if you're new to the channel and you like what we're doing. Trying to hit 12,000 subscribers today. And let's get this video to 700 likes. I think we could do it. I believe in you. I believe in you people. Oh, one more thing actually before we move on is this kind of, I'm in logarithmic, by the way, log scale, and you could see that we're just trending down the firmament, confirming it as a support. Now, it's not good, obviously, because this is a very steep line to the downside, but let's go back to when this started, and you could actually see that it had a similar structure going into the firmament, where we had multiple trading days, of course, kind of just riding it up before we broke into it, and then it's sort of, the rest is just history. So I'm interested. I'm kind of, it's amazing how, I don't know if we're the first channel to ever talk about this arc and how it's been in its entirety, but it is really interesting to see how it's playing out and how these calls have been in using this as somewhat of an indicator, and now how we're just perfectly trading on the outside of it. It'd be interesting to see how this pops up. And could this trend down into the full moon? Absolutely. We could see a $30,000 Bitcoin or a $29,000 Bitcoin next week, or even as early as this weekend. It's definitely in the cards. But overall, zoom out. We have to zoom out and just sort of look at the bigger picture here. To a whale, what's the difference between 30K and 27K? Doesn't fucking matter. They're just accumulating. To them, they have the answer to the future before the future even comes. That's one of the things that what we're trying to do on this channel to be able to navigate around. What is it that the richest people in the world who have infinite access to liquidity, what is it that they are using? What are the tools, and just follow the money? That's a basic way of saying it. Let's move on to the XRP chart. So I do want to kind of go into this parallel channel that we've been seeing. I'm going to leave it on log just for the moment and we'll switch back to linear. But you could see I actually drew this parallel channel on a live video. It's a weird channel, but the idea behind it was trying to kind of capture the most price action and what's the most likely trend of price action for XRP. And I believe that this parallel channel has about 80 to 90% of all the trading that we've seen since back in April when we had this big blast off to the upside. So I'm really interested about this, but the one thing that I can say to just be non-biased here, even though I said I was bullish, is this this right here, which is the 200 EMA. If you zoom in, let me turn off all the drawings so we can get a clearer picture here. You can see that under this 200 EMA, we did get a 2-day closure below it. And I was like really happy with XRP being able to maintain at that support level, but we did break below it. Although we broke below it though, I'm not bearish, and I'm going to show you why. So the last time that we actually broke below this with a 2-day closure was the SEC dump. And let's kind of look back into what happened there. I'm going to focus on it before the breakout because I think that's what matters most. But you can see right here, we closed below it. And then we actually had this boring sideways, but we didn't really chop too low. And we ended up holding support on this other green line at the bottom, which is the 200 simple moving average. But here's what I want to bring up, and it's something that I brought up in previous videos, the MACD bullish cross on the 2-day. So not only did we get a closure below the 200 EMA, before a MACD bullish cross, but look at the recovery that we saw to the upside. So from that move down on the day that the MACD crossed bullish, from the bottom of the closure to the top, we're looking at 140% gain over 16 trading days after that happened. So even though by a moving averages perspective, this looks like shit, it's actually not a problem at all. And it's because we've started to look at this MACD and its importance on the price action of XRP, and particularly on the 2-day. So this SEC dump is actually quite similar in regards to the amount of liquidity that left the market, comparable to this amount that has left as well. It's obviously just different price points and it's a way different structure, but market structure in regard to the chart, pretty damn similar. Just didn't happen as fast as the SEC dump happened, and that's why that looked and felt so dramatic. Again, back in my course when this time happened, I actually have a video in my course showing live when the price was 18 cents, even broke below 18 cents for a moment, and I was screaming from the top of a mountain telling everyone to buy that shit, buy XRP. Up here, I was not telling anyone to buy because I know how this price action works. Again, you need to be able to be a wolf. Don't be a bull. Don't be a bear. That's how you get fucked. So what I'm seeing right now is this 2-day cross on the MACD that we got over here actually happened quite a while back. So let's just measure about 14 days and see where we are at regardless of the moving averages. And that puts us at a minimum of about the 24th of July. So remember what I just showed you in the very beginning of this video, how 7 plus 24 plus 20 plus 21 equals 72. And that 72 comes back to Bitcoin. So there's something interesting here where I believe the energy might be in a continue sideways, be a little bit boring, get us through that full moon, and then we're just going to boom. And that also aligns with this historical this historical MACD cross, where I showed you in the previous video, actually, the last upload, that this cross leads to at least 100% gains, and it takes a minimum of 14 days, but could last as long as, maybe 20 days to the upside. The last thing I want to go over is this. I'm going to remove the moving averages, and I just want to go over the Bollinger Bands. So the Bollinger Bands in linear, very interesting. This is showing you a perfect support level as well. Let me reset this. So you can see perfect support on this bottom side band. And another thing that's also pretty clear is the resistance off of this 20 simple that is part of this Bollinger Bands indicator. So this red line, I have it red for a very important reason, because it's perfect as showing you support and resistance and flips and reversals of the market. So it's something I go over deep on my course. But the point being here is that if we start to see a daily closure above this Bollinger Band in the Bollinger Band moving average, which is the 20 simple, I suspect we could probably move up to that 70 cent range, get a little bit of resistance on the top side band, and then potentially break out. Let's look and zoom out as to how tight these bands have gotten lately. It's very reminiscent to back here, very reminiscent to back here. And this was even crazier. That was the whole accumulation phase from last fall before the market went into a massive pump. And of course, the XRP chart is pretty jagged and ugly looking, but that's because it's mostly held by retail investors. So anyways, we're seeing this tightening of the bands, and typically after a tightening of the Bollinger Bands on the 2-day, especially on the daily, it's going to probably give us some resolution sooner than later. And you can basically use the Bollinger Bands like this. Daily closures below the bands, I would expect we just double bottom at the 51 cent level. Could drop lower, but that's what I'm anticipating. And then a closure above the 20 simple, the moving average in the middle, move up to the topside band. Daily closure above the topside band for the bullish bias would lead you up to probably that 200 EMA. Correct. So if you look at this now, this is going to be your major resistance. That's 77 to 78 cent level because it's the 200 simple, 200 exponential, and the 55 simple moving average on the daily. We're going to leave it at that. So if you guys are trying to learn how to do technical analysis using my strategies and techniques, combining it with Gematria Numerology and Astrology, you could contact me if you'd like to have access to the course. Also, Patreon Mastermind community. We just posted the H-bar Hedera hashgraph decode a couple days ago. Had a blast. Lots of esoteric symbology in H-bar. And we'll be doing that live stream tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Excited to hang out with all of y'all. Enjoy the rest of your day in the Matrix. Much love.